I'm going to show you today is how to do an air layer on a lychee tree. I often get asked this by many people, and I don't believe I have a video on the website that goes through the A to Z's of doing an air layer. Lychees are very easy to air layer. An air layered lychee produces a lateral branching root system, unlike a lychee that you grow from seed, which develops a taproot. The advantage of an air layer, it's from a tree that's already fruiting. I think this happens to be a sweetheart tree, I believe. And the air layer is capable of producing fruit right away, whereas if you grow a tree from seed, it could take 12 to 20 years before it produces fruit. So air layering is the optimal way to propagate a tree. Now what you want to do is pick out a branch that has a nice trunk to it, and then typically a bifurcation, because you're looking towards what's going to make a nice tree once this ultimately gets in the ground. The reason you don't want the bifurcation too low to the bottom is that in a storm or windstorm, it can split and break. And some lychees have a higher tendency to split than others, particularly Mauritius do. Anyhow, we take a pliers like this that has serrations, teeth in it. We come down here and wrap it around the branch and grind it down so we go through the outer cambium layer. The cambium is the vascular layer in a tree that can differentiate into other parts of the tree, such as roots and branches and bark. And what we're going to want to do is get this to actually produce roots. And when it's produced roots, it's going to take 8 to 10 weeks. When it's produced roots, we're then going to cut this off and put it in a pot. We can put it under mist. We don't really have to do that. So first thing I'm going to do is to put some root tone on this, which is, in this case, it's indole acetic acid is the hormone, but this is, I think, indole butyric acid. We don't need very much, and we put it around the proximal end, the end of the air layer facing towards the tips of the branches, and the roots will form on this edge here. So we put a little root tone on here, and then, now that we've got this scraped down, it's important that you scrape all the cambium off. Otherwise, it'll form connections, and it won't root out. It'll reconnect itself. All right, so we've got that. Now, I've prepared a mix. I've prepared a mix of sphagnum and pro-mix. Now, this is my preferred mix because the pro-mix is used for rooting small plants, so it has some fertilizer in it. Typically, sphagnum moss only is used in air layers, but I like to mix the two up. That seems to give me better results. Now, I've also added a small quantity of root tone to this solution to accelerate the rooting process. My experience has been that it's not totally necessary, but it helps. You want all the advantages you can get. So we put it around here, put it around this, just like we're wrapping a bandage up. We wrap this around, tuck it in under here, and then take it and we wrap both ends of the tin foil tightly around either end of the branch with the exposed area in the middle of where the rooting medium is. Now the next thing we want to do is put some duct tape around either end. Now oftentimes if you look at air layers, they use clear plastic and they tie either end of the air layer. The reason they use clear plastic is that way they can see the roots inside this root ball as it roots out. They say it's going to take 8 weeks to 10 weeks for this to fully root out. It takes longer in the winter when the weather's cooler, but now we're coming into the summer months. It's almost, we're a couple of days away. April 1 will be Thursday of this week, and it's going to start getting warmer fairly rapidly. Normally what you would do is pick a branch that doesn't have flower on it, that's not likely to, it's not going to be flowering and producing fruit this year. So we take the duct tape and we put the duct tape around, I mean, this is my preferred way of doing it, and it's quick. What you can do is, if you prepare all of your air layer and foil material in advance, you could have 50 of these. You could go through your tree, prepare all the surfaces, put some root tone on, and then you can go out bang, 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 put air layers on all these branches, and you can get a tree in an hour. You can get 50 air layers on a tree. But the reason I'm putting duct tape on either end of this is actually a fairly good reason. It's not necessary, but what happens is carpenter ants, which are not a biting ant, they're not a stinging ant like fire ants. Carpenter ants will get in here and make a nest, and then they'll eat out all of the tiny root tendrils that come off the main roots that form in here. So you open this up and you have all of these carpenter ants scrambling in a panic to get out, and it's full of ant eggs. And you know, look, carpenter ants are a part of the whole natural deterioration process. They're a beneficial ant, but you don't want them inside your air layer because it ruins the air layer. So anyhow, so that's all she wrote. And in 8 weeks to 10 weeks, you can tap this and it'll be hard, tight as a drum. That's how you know that it's rooted out. And then you can cut it off and put it in a rooting material and put it under mist or whatever, and you're done.